Satchidatmanyanusyute Nitye Vishnau Prakalpitaha Vyaktayo Vividha Sarva Hatake Katakadivat Satchidatmanyanusyute Nitye Vishnau Prakalpitaha Vyaktayo Vividha Sarva Hatake Katakadiva. The manifested world of plurality is superimposed upon the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu, whose nature is existence, intelligence, just as bangles, etc., on gold. Just as bangles, etc., on gold. The world of plurality is superimposed upon the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu, whose nature is existence and intelligence. Satchidatmanya, Satchidatmani. The nature is existence and intelligence. Sat Chit Ananda or Sat Chit Sukham. These are the terms that are used to describe the pervasive nature of Brahman. Pervasive means where does the Lord pervade? The Lord pervades in all the things and beings of the world. We have gone through this definition before. Sat is that which is existing. Chit has intelligence. Ananda is bliss, refers to the beings that go through the state of waking, dream, and deep sleep. So in effect, they are saying Sat Chit Ananda means the Brahman or the reality which is all pervading. What is all pervading? Pervades all the things and beings of the world. It's everywhere. That's all. Now, the verse says the manifested world of plurality, the heterogeneous expressions, is superimposed upon the one homogeneous reality. The plurality is imposed upon the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu. So the world is superimposed on Vishnu. And how is it happening? It is all the figment of your own stupid imagination, man. There is no pith and substance to all that you are creating. It's all the play of your own mind. The Shastras are saying, Prakalpitaha. You're imposing a world on Brahman. The Brahman is the reality, the self. The Brahman, he calls it here as the all-pervading Vishnu. Look at that Catholicity. Look at the magnanimity of Adi Shankaracharya. Please be mindful. Adi Shankaracharya was the head of the Shaivite movement, isn't it? And here is the one with a head. The head with a head. Means the man who has the wisdom, they don't see a difference whether it is Shiva or Vishnu. The fellows without heads are caught up with Shiva or caught up with Vishnu. Headless fellows. And what is happening? They are, as I say, some of you maybe are worshipping Vishnu, and some of you may worship Lord Shiva. And you are Shaivite or a Vaishnavite. You will have your own belief systems, you will have your own conditionings, you will have your own reasons why you hold on to a particular thought, a particular form, a particular avenue where you can worship. You call it as God. And yet here, He could have easily said all-pervading Shiva, isn't it? But he intentionally puts it just to drive home a message to the narrow minds that there is no difference between Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu. It is all your narrow-mindedness. Learn to attune to the reality, the all-pervading truth or reality. The moment you call it all-pervading, the moment you say it is all-pervasive, anything that is all-pervading has no form, has no name and no form. So a true man of wisdom will attune to the God as the reality which is everywhere. Why are you giving it a name and a form? The moment you give a name and a form, you're caught up in the world, the Nama Rupa. And the gurus out there are not doing any help to the masses to educate them that there is no difference between the name and the form. In fact, the gurus are actually tapping on the division and just making a good use of the mindset, the ignoramuses. They're just encashing on the mindset of the people. So they'll have a certain market share. The moment you say Shiva, all the followers of Shiva will follow him. The moment you say Vishnu, all the Vaishnavas will follow him. Whether you put Namam this way or Namam that way, they're only putting Namam on you. All that. They are buttering you and they are falling a prey for that Namam. So the gurus are putting a Namam onto you because you are stuck to a Namam. Adi Shankaracharya is above all these Namams. He is not putting any Namam. He wants to get you out of the Namam. Get out of your own childishness. That's what he's saying. Doesn't matter, man. What are you caught up in the names and forms? Just for God's sake, please think, man. Use your intellect to think and appreciate the God which is everywhere. Why are you giving it a name and a form? See, the gods and goddesses are only introduced with an objective attuned to the God. In the Shastras, whenever they use the word singular God, it means Brahman. It means the reality. It means the consciousness, the pure consciousness. There is no name, form, color, anything. It is pure. But the gods, which are in hundreds and thousands, multifold gods and goddesses, and the various rituals and ceremonies and all that which come along with it, they all were introduced with an only objective of trying to help the mind which cannot conceive the God directly. See, your mind is not mature to think of that consciousness, to conceive what is that state of realization. You can't. Just to help the mind, the immature mind, various concepts of gods and goddesses arose. Just to help the mind divinize your mundane pursuits. So they came Ganesha, then came Shiva, they came Parvati, they came Lakshmi, they came Saraswati, and so on and so forth. What they did is the ingenious mastermind of the great rishis of the past. What they did is, you got to understand this. Amma and Appa, both all are Ammas, Appas for me. Please understand. What is the objective of spiritual sadhana? The ultimate objective of spiritual sadhana is to lodge your mind onto the self, onto the reality, isn't it? Nothing else matters. Is to take your mind off what you're holding on to and plant it on something higher, ideally the self. Now they very quickly realized that it is impossible to pluck the mind which is already caught up in something in the world. It is impossible. It's not difficult. It is impossible to pull your mind away from something that you're caught up in. If you're attached to your child or your grandchild, I can't tell you stop thinking of it. You will drop me, but not your grandchild or the thought of it. So I don't want to become an interference between you and your grandchild. So attachment. Carry on. Gloating, as if they are the only person who has a grandchildren. Nobody else has any children or grandchildren. No children at all. You are the only Person has child or grandchild. Your grandchild, he is the only grandchild in the world. Attachment. And if I were to go a little step further, you will just push me aside and say, don't come in between me and my love. Who are you? So I am very careful what I say, to whom I say, how much I say, if at all to say or not. Because I know when you overstep, what will happen? There's a backlash. You may have respect, but I should not advantage of that respect, isn't it? Knowledge is always taken, never given. I will know exactly where you could be going wrong, what you're attached to, but I can't help you unless until you come and seek it. So it is impossible, and it is impossible that your mind is not attached to something or the other. And it will be very difficult for me to convince myself that your mind is only attached to Brahman and detached to the entire world. Even that I can't convince myself. So it is rather difficult to draw the mind out of what you're attached to. So what they did, instead of plucking your mind where it is and plant it on the higher, wherever your mind went, they planted a god or goddess. This is the ingenious mastermind of the gurus of the past. They divinized every pursuit, every human pursuit they divinized. Then what happened? You are forced to create a thought of reality wherever your mind went. Hopefully that you'll realize that there's something beyond the mere material pursuit. Please remember this. God means the transcendental. Gods and goddesses are only expressions, powers of that one God. They're the manifestations of the one God. God is not the God. Gods represent the God. Get this right. Ganesha is not self-realization. Lord Subramanya is not self-realization. Lord Shiva is not self-realization. Lord Vishnu is not Brahman. Lord Brahma also is not Brahman. Brahman is the God, which is what the text is talking about, the all-pervading reality. He is just to educate us, he is slipped in the word Vishnu, but it has no form. The moment you say Vishnu, you identify with the form, isn't it? But when I say Brahman, it has no form. You can't identify with anything that's form. Why can't you identify a form with all-pervading? Technical question. A lot of scientific-minded people in the class, so they'll do a lot of scientific analysis. Then I'll get a scientific report of takeaways also, which I have to spend 2 days studying that scientific. A lot of medhavis are there. So much wisdom. I'm blessed to be in the company of such wisdom. The question is, why can't you conceive a form when you say it is all pervading? All pervading means it's formless. But why can't you conceive a form? Or why can't you conceive formless? Let's put straightforward. Why can't you conceive anything formless? You can't conceive. Question is why? The mind is conditioned. Formless is an unknown entity. As it is within, if we conceive, then it gets a form. Fair enough. What is that? Sorry. Padmanima? Sahasra Shira Pusha. What is it meaning? We don't know. So much Sanskrit, we don't know, ma. Please.
I was quoting from the Purusha Sutta. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasracha Sahasrapad.
What does it mean?
Innumerable eyes, innumerable legs, limbs, everything.
Ah.
So that is all one thing which you find in every thing.
That means it is all pervading. Yeah. Sarvatra, it's everywhere. Anusyute, the word in this context here uses anusyute, all pervading. But why can't you conceive? You can't conceive all pervading because your intellect, it is beyond the concept, it's beyond the capacity of the intellect. The best of intellect cannot conceive anything is all pervading. It's beyond the capacity of the intellect. Therefore, you can't conceive it. It's not, oh, my intellect is limited. No, even the best of intellects, the most wisest of intellect cannot capture, because it is not a concept. All pervading is beyond the capacity of the intellect. You can't conceive it. Just therefore, to help the human intellect, they introduced a form. That's all they did. All right. Solongo Hariji.
We can conceive only an object, and it is not an object.
It doesn't have a form. Why can't conceive? Because it's beyond the capacity of the intellect. It transcends the capacity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Now, what we are doing, the manifested world of plurality is superimposed on that Brahman, on that all-pervading Vishnu. So what you are doing, something which has no name and form, you are superimposing a nama rupa on the truth. And how are you superimposing? He says it is your sheer imagination. Now my question is, what is it that determines the nature of that which you are imposing on Brahman? You are imposing. My question is, what is it that determines, or what is it that's imposing the what determines rather the nature of imposition? All of us are imposing something. Is anybody in the classroom can claim that they're seeing Brahman? Ah. All of you are seeing a world of name and form, nama rupa. So we are all superimposing, isn't it? Now, what is it that determining what you are imposing? What determines? Are you following the question, Annapurnama? Yes, ma.
Hari Om Guruji. Not quite well, but I think our own limited understanding, with our own limited understanding, we try to impose, superimpose on the what we think is the ultimate reality.
No, I'm not asking about your understanding of the supreme reality. My question is, we are all imposing a world on Brahman. What is it that determines the imposition? In effect, I'm saying, what is it that determines and defines the nature of the world that you're projecting?
Our vasanas.
Vasanas, all right. In fact, it is our own mind.
Because that is where our life is, the proportion we have.
No, in fact, it's the
We are born
mind.
with.
It is the mind that projects the world. Don't we say the world is a projection of your own mind? Your mind is conditioned with certain thoughts. So the thoughts in your mind project the world, isn't it?
Yes.
And the nature of the mind determines what world you project. A villager's mind is a villager's world. A corporate mind, a corporate world. a corrupt mind, a corrupt world, an engineer's mind, an engineer's world, doctor's mind, doctor's world, philosophic mind, philosophic world, student mind, student world, and go on. And you come to a point where your mind is not there, there's no world. Healthy mind, healthy world. Sportive mind, sportive world. It's just a matter of
Thank
you
you,
holding
Guruji.
on to a thought. Yes, ma'am. Most welcome. So it's up to you. Hold on to a thought. The moment you receive a thought and hold on to it, you make a world of it. I'm not trying to advertise or anything. A couple of them know the little push I gave myself today. Like, I go for cycling every other day. Our Sadguru ji is Hariji. We call him Sadguru, you know. So he is my guru. So I keep following him, and then we keep going cycling every day. So anybody wants to join us, you know, it's an open invitation. You can come and exercise with us. So yesterday we met. My cycle had to be taken for a small repair, servicing, and met with the person who is a professional who did a thorough job on it. And I had a conversation with him. And a thought got into my head. Just a thought. What I took away from that is a thought got into my head that you should reach a target of the minimum. He said he organizes various rides and events, where the minimum is he does 100-kilometer cycling at a stretch in a span of 6-7 hours. You're given a time, and my childish enthusiasm was, I would like to be a part of it. Let me know if there's anything like that. And this morning, I took out to push my limits to a certain extent and did close to 75 kilometers this morning in 3.5 hours. 74 kilometers I did in 3 hours, 28 minutes. I did that cycling. If you ask me, would I have thought of it every day, every other day when we go, we do 35, 40 kilometers, 45 kilometers, I do on an average. But the thought of trying to reach 100 kilometers was never exist in my mind. So the world I experienced today, I pushed my body to a certain limit. Where did it come from? A thought I picked up from the world. So the world I have created, I'm not trying to advertise, please, here. What I'm trying to say is, now my goal is I want to reach 100. And it's just, believe me, it's mind over matter. This is what I was actually telling that chap yesterday. Hariji, after you left, we had a long, for half an hour, sitting with him and having a discussion. End of the day, what I was saying is, it is all, number is just a figure in the mind. As long as you have the capacity to push your body and test your limits, your body will listen and obey what the mind says. You conquer your mind, you conquer the world, or the famous words of great Vivekananda, isn't it? You conquer the mind, the world comes into your grip. So just the thought that got into my mind, and I want to conquer it. And I created a world for myself, an experience for myself. Thanks to him, I had an experience. Now, the question is, what are the thoughts in your mind? So all the time, the world you're living in is the thoughts that you charter in your mind. So in fact, the mind is going through a constant soliloquy. It's constantly muttering and chattering, and constantly it is on and on and on. And does your mind ever get tired? Ushama, does your mind ever get tired?
Namaste, Guruji. No, it doesn't get tired. Even when you're resting, you're sleeping also, I think your subconscious mind will be keeping on thinking. It
I
never
don't know.
gets tired.
Everything should get tired, no? But this funny mind of ours never gets tired. Amazing.
Unfortunately.
Now, so there's so much of energy. Just they compare the mind to a child. When the child is awake, oh my God, the whole house is full of noise and action, energy, running and running. And you say, where are you getting so much energy from? You're thin like a matchstick. Where is everything going? Everything is burnt out and they never get tired. So your mind never gets tired. Remember this. Your mind never gets tired. And what you got to do? If there's so much energy at your disposal, what do you got to do? You got to learn to harness it. And if you don't harness that energy, what is a blessing becomes a curse. That's what Ushrama is saying. Sadly, it is even bothering even in sleep. It is destroying the normalcy of life because you're not able to harness it. And once you have the harness it, you will be able to shut it off. You'll be able to, it has energy, but moment there is no external control, it goes berserk, which is what is happening to mankind. Humanity is not able to get a grip over the mind. The moment you get a grip over the mind, in fact, it is not wrong to say the entire spirituality can boil down to mind control. And your spiritual wisdom is directly measured with to what extent can you control and conquer your mind. Nothing more. You don't need to know anything more than this in your life, in spirituality. Everything else, if you are directing to achieve this particular end, you have made something of yourself. You have achieved something spiritually. Mind control. To put it in a much palatable sense, sense control. But here, the moment you get your mind tuned in, you have a control of what you're imposing on Brahman. So what he's saying here is, and the example he gives is just like bangles are imposed on gold. Gold has no nature. Has gold got any nature? Gold has no nature. Bangle is a nature created, nama rupa, a name and a form created out of gold. Just like you create a bangle, give it a name, a form, a character, a structure from a formless gold, just like you create various pots and vases out of mud. Clay has no form, but a vase has a form. Bangle has a form, gold has no form, cotton has no form, garment has a form and a structure, a character. Similarly, the world you're imposing or creating has got a form because of your own mind. So you change it here, the world changes. You negate it here, the world gets negated. What remains is the all-pervading, eternal Vishnu, the Brahman. So Brahman has no characteristics. The world that we have imposed has a characteristics, has a nature. So there is no nature of Brahman. So the beautiful example of the bangle gives you a clear picture of what the message is. All right? Are you okay with understanding? Siddharaman sir, fine, sir? Perfect. Right.